IVM. It's now well established that the global pandemic is destined to change the DNA of a lot of industries, the hospitality industry being one of the hardest hit. It has been a heavy blow for us restaurateurs around the world. Many of my friends in the industry have had to make difficult choices about closing spaces they've built with so much love. For those still in survival mode, life will probably never be the same again. Everywhere, restaurateurs are asking the same question. What will a post-coronavirus restaurant business look like? I thought I'd get some answers from my fellow restaurateurs, and today, the guest of my show is all the way from the US. So just to give you some background, my husband Jay and I have always had a close connect with California, particularly since we lived there for 15 years and our first restaurant, The Table, was very much inspired by its ingredient-focused cuisine. Over the 10 years that we've been in the business, we've gotten to meet so many amazing chefs from there, and in fact had quite a few of them down in Mumbai to cook with us at Magazine Street Kitchen, which is also how I met my guest today. Chef Mary Sue Milliken has a 40-year career in F&B, which includes a James Beard Award, several restaurants, cookbooks, and radio and TV shows. She's best known for her Latin-inspired border grill restaurants with her long-term business partner, Susan Feniger. Among her many philanthropic endeavors, she's also on the board of Share Our Strength, an organization focused on ensuring no child goes hungry. I could actually go on about her many accolades, but I'm sure, like me, you're anxious to hear from her, which we'll do right after this quick break.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Intel, for coming back to us. We love our sponsors. If you'd like to be one of them, do reach out. So really cool week on the network this week, right? Started off with a bang. Abhijit Ganguly was on Cyrus Says. Funny comedian. I think you guys will enjoy that. We had Dimant Parekh on Advertising is Dead. Dimant's the founder of Better India. Govindraj Athiraj is also on Uncle Please Sit this week. That's a really fascinating show which they talk about fake news. On the Habit Coach, there was a crossover event with Aditi Surana from Absolutely Right. I think you definitely enjoyed that. And last but not least, definitely a show I'd love you all to check out. We have a new show called This Round Is On Me. It's hosted by Gauri Devidayal. If you remember, Gauri and I worked on a show together called The Kolaba Cartel a while ago. Fun show. If you haven't checked that out, do check that out. But this is a show where she's talking to a lot of different people in the food space. Her first guest is Harsh Mariwala, legend in his own time. I think you'll really enjoy that show. With that, let me get you back to your show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of This Round Is On Me. Today we're going to be continuing our exploration of what's happening around the world for the F&B industry, and this time our eyes are on the US. So, my husband Jay and I have always had a close connect with California, particularly since he lived there for 15 years. And our first restaurant, The Table, was very much inspired by its ingredient-focused cuisine. So over the 10 years that we've been in the business, we've gotten to meet so many amazing chefs from there. And in fact, had quite a few of them down in Mumbai to cook either at The Table or at Mac Street Kitchen. Which is also how I first met our guest today. She is one incredible chef. And if you hail from the US or have spent any time there, there's no doubt you will recognize Chef Mary Sue Milliken. She's a James Beard Award-winning chef, restaurateur, cookbook writer, and radio and TV personality, best known for her Latin-inspired border grill restaurants and her TV show, Too Hot Tamales, with her long-term business partner, Susan Feniger. So throughout her groundbreaking, nearly 40-year career, Mary Sue finds that the key to her success is in following her insatiable curiosity, which is what I think even got her to India. But on a more serious note, she's also a trustee for the very revered James Beard Foundation and on the board of Share Our Strength, which is an organization focused on ensuring no child goes hungry, and has used her voice for, women's empowerment in the kitchen and many amazing things. So I could go on and on about her accolades, but I'm sure, like me, you're waiting to hear from her. So welcome to the show, Mary Sue, and thank you so much for finding the time to join me. I'm so
you.
glad we could connect this way, considering everything going on at the moment. And of course, that we're in opposite ends of the world. So thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here. It's so exciting to be, for a moment, almost like I'm back there with you.
Yeah, I know. Almost. It will happen. So Mary Sue, tell me, what have the last 3 months been like for you?
Well, it's an incredible time, really challenging. I feel like I landed in another planet, because one day I had just opened a restaurant 8 weeks before lockdown, and we were busy as could be. I was super excited because we had a hit on our hands. And, all of a sudden, we just closed the doors. It's like the water, you turn the tap off and it was dry. So, and our business, as you know, is all about gathering together and, being hospitable and having a way to connect over food. People can feed themselves, but their souls aren't nourished unless they really get together and are able to share. So, and that's what restaurants do. We restore people. We get them, we take care of them. So not being able to do that and then navigating, so it's like learning a different language. Like, how do I take care of my customers without them gathering or without me touching them or without, them being within 6 feet of me? So it's been really interesting, and challenging and exciting in some ways and very exhausting.
I feel you. And in fact, I mean, we went through something very similar. I was going to ask you, what happened with the restaurant you just opened, but we went through something very similar because we actually opened our Cantonese restaurant May 13, literally 10 days before lockdown got announced. And we were so excited about this. So I know the feeling that, you've been waiting all these months to open and then you do, and you don't know what hits you really. So it's definitely, it's been one expected bumpy ride for sure. But, I mean, what's the sort of take us through a little bit of, how you, because I know that you're in LA and the situation there is very different from, I think, the way it is in India. And, we very much had it was like a complete shutdown of the entire city, every aspect of the city. And, it's something that I think even our sort of leaders were grappling with in terms of how to, guide people through this time. And for me as well as an entrepreneur and a business owner to guide our employees, like everything was a first for us, literally. So, what was it like for you in terms of what have you all done with you have 3 restaurants right now open, is that right? And you have one in Vegas as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I like to take a global perspective, and I like to keep in touch with my colleagues around the world who are running restaurants. And I think our government's response has been, I think everybody was taken off guard. Every country's leaders, this is a very unusual, crazy time. What we did was we closed 5 different outlets, and 3 big restaurants and some little ones, well, more like 7, but eventually everything closed completely. And that was our choice because I think we were a little bit concerned about the safety of our employees and about the safety of our customers, and we didn't feel the science was there. We couldn't understand exactly what to do to not spread the virus. So we just took a break, and everybody went on unemployment, which is what we do in this country. 380 employees all went on furlough. So we continue to pay their health benefits, but they were paid by the government for their jobs. And in some cases, interestingly, our Congress passed a bill that they get an extra $600 a week. So some of my lower paid employees, the hourly employees who our busboys and wash dishes and that, they were making more money than they were making when I employed them. So
that's really interesting.
And at first we thought we'd be closed for 3 or 4 weeks, maximum, and it's worn on and on and on. And so we're just starting to reopen now, really. We haven't, we opened 2 weeks ago. Actually, we were able to open one of our kitchens quite quickly downtown Los Angeles. And my strategy was we stayed in touch with all of our employees. There are certain employees who were not eligible for unemployment benefits, and those were the ones I was most concerned about getting back to work because there was no other way to make money. So we were able to get grants to feed the homeless, the elderly, and hospital workers, and that was really fortunate. We were able to put a small team of maybe 10 or 15 people back to work, just in the kitchen and packing food and delivering it to those areas that were in great need.
Right. I mean, that's amazing. But did you not at any point resume even deliveries just for, or like curbside pickup just for like the public to be able to come and, to order in? The newest restaurant, Socolo, out in Santa Monica near the beach, that's 8 weeks old and then had a 3-month break, has just started doing takeaway and delivery and meal kits and cocktail kits. And the reason was, it's interesting, all 3 of my big restaurants were in places that the Vegas restaurant at Mandalay Bay, the entire resort and hotel was closed, and we weren't even allowed to go in. The downtown restaurant is in the middle of a lot of high rises, and it's a ghost town. None of our customers were there. It would have been, we would hemorrhage money if we decided to open and staff it. And then our newest restaurant, which was the most viable for takeaway and delivery, is right across the street from a very large hospital. And a lot of our clients were people who were working in the hospital, coming and going. And for that, I was a little bit worried. And I think we just decided we would take it slow. I'm no spring chicken, as you said, 40 years. And I just want to, but we actually have opened. Yeah. We're starting our service Thursday this week, and we're wearing masks and we have face shields, and we have, our landlords are so good, all of our landlords, but the landlord in Santa Monica has let us use half of the driveway to make a lot of physically distanced tables. And so it's slowly we're getting back to being able to do some version of what we do best. Right. I mean, that's incredible that, you've had, your landlords and things, because I think for our business, that is a big factor in being able to even sort of think about reopening and sort of staying alive. Right. So I think that's you're very lucky, and, good luck with the reopening. But, just coming back a little bit to what you mentioned earlier about, the government supporting unemployment and things. So that's obviously been a big, it's been a bit of a bear bug here in India, because, there hasn't been that sort of support being sort of very forthcoming in any shape or form, whether it's in the form of like reducing taxes or license dues or, in anything. I mean, they've given a bit of time to make payments, but that still has to be paid, right? So in that sense, I mean, I've been hearing and reading a lot about the PPP program that the government provided for small businesses. Is that something that you guys availed of? And is it actually, has it been a big boost for you all to sort of stay alive during these few months?
Well, yes. I applied for 5 different PPP loans, and that was very time consuming in the beginning. Lots of paperwork, payroll records, especially lots of, we had to turn a lot of things into our bank. Luckily, on the first round, we got all of them funded. So the money came immediately into our bank accounts, but we weren't open. Mm-hmm. So, and like you said, I'm very lucky with my landlord. So I have, our landlord's downtown, and in Vegas, we've been there 22 and 23 years. So we know each other very well.
Yeah.
And they're very happy to have us as tenants. And our new landlord is also fantastic. But basically, the government also, I think, thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 week hiccup. And so the way the PPP loan was structured, you had to spend everything and 75% of it within the first 8 weeks. And the problem is that we weren't open. Yeah. So they've now done a PPP Flexibility Act, which gives us until the end of the year. Gives us 24 weeks to spend it from the day the funds hit the bank account. So most of our loans we'll need to use them. And now they've reduced it to 60% for payroll. The whole impetus is payroll protection. That's the whole program. So they want to get people back to work and off of unemployment. So I have now until like the middle of October to spend that money. And it looks like our Vegas restaurant's going to be able to open in July. And so if I spend that money on payroll, 60% of it, and on utilities and rent and interest on loans, the other 40%, then I will get those loans forgiven.
Oh, what, 100%?
Yeah, well, yes. If I can hit all the benchmarks,
wow.
Quite a few hoops to jump through, but you have to employ at least 75% of who you had on payroll when you close. So if I have enough business to employ that many people, like in Vegas, we had 180 employees.
Wow.
So our business there, our business especially, is completely tied to the convention business. So when there's big conventions,
which is obviously not happening right now, right?
No, it's not going to happen until next year at the earliest. So it's going to be an interesting time. The other thing is, if we don't spend the money on that, we can keep the money, but it's a loan for 5 years.
Interest. Yeah.
With 1% interest. So it's cheap money, and it can help us get through these times. Definitely. And in the United States, the independent restaurants really gathered together quickly. It's the first time in my career that I've seen the restaurant industry really be a focus for our legislators. Yeah. And it's because of a lot of my friends like Tom Colicchio, Jose Andreas, Naomi Pomeroy, and a lot of us who got together and went to Washington and just lobbied and hired lobbyists. And we did a huge social media campaign as well. So there's another bill that's been introduced to the House it's an independent restaurant support bill. I can't remember the name exactly right this moment, but it's interesting. I think if that comes through, we'll have even additional support, which would be really, really helpful. I fear a lot of small restaurants are going to go out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to sort of come to that, and I think that's amazing that, what you're saying about restaurants and restaurateurs coming together and chefs coming together. I mean, I've seen something very similar happen here with the National Restaurant Association of India, which is, it's the representative body for restaurants. And I've never seen everyone, rally together the way they have. I can't say that it's had the necessary impact in terms of, getting the outcome from the government, because, it's a whole different beast here. I think the industry is seen more as a luxury segment in India. And so it's not necessarily, top of the list, even though that's not how we see it, because, we have this indirect impact on so many people, whether it's the farmers, whether it's, it's incredible. But I think it's like you said, it's caught everyone so much off guard that, trying to now highlight the importance of the industry has definitely been an uphill battle. But I agree with you. There's been amazing sort of camaraderie between within the industry, which is otherwise quite competitive.
Yeah.
So, just sort of coming back to, you mentioned there about some restaurants that, I've been listening to, sort of just following what's happening. And I am hearing about a lot of restaurants that are having to, pull the shutters down and make those difficult decisions. And, is that something that ever crossed, your mind, or is it that, you've been lucky with the way the funding and things have worked out, and so, you don't really have to think about it? But what's that sort of been like for you? I'm sure you have friends in the industry who are going through, a sort of a difficult time as far as like staying open is concerned.
Right. Well, I think our restaurant business, the financial model was already ailing and very, very tentative before COVID-19 hit. And we were, I think for the last 5 to 10 years, making money in the restaurant business has become increasingly difficult. Right. The minimum wage has gone up, insurances are more expensive. And I don't think the general public really realizes how important restaurants are as employers of masses of people, and as, the social fabric that ties us all together in our little communities and our neighborhoods, and where people gather and, get restored and sustain their emotional needs. So I'm happy that that's come to the forefront, I think, for a lot of people, not only lawmakers, but customers as well, who I'm kind of the hopeful girl, the glass half full. So I hope that the general public will have more compassion and better understanding about how difficult our business is, and that the food that we've been serving is fundamentally artificially cheap, on the backs of immigrants and low-paid wage earners who do not get the benefits that they deserve, do not get the respect that they deserve, and are stuck now without a way to get money. They don't have health care. This is a real problem when this pandemic hit and kind of exposed the underbelly of inequity in the United States. Yeah. And how it's also completely, been exacerbated. People were so, tired and pent up and worried and stressed. And then, another 5 or 10 policemen,
I know. Yeah.
murdered, Black people. Yeah. And I think that, the combination of all the different stresses has, really lit a fire under the things that need to change.
Yeah. And I'm happy. Yeah. We're all sort of sitting here watching this, this incredible civil rights movement happening in our lifetime, and I don't think there's been anything like this as far as I can remember, on this scale. And it's incredible. And it's almost like this wouldn't necessarily have happened this way if we weren't going through what we are today. And it's really like sitting back in India. It's an amazing thing to watch, and maybe that's one thing that's kind of come out of this that hopefully will be bring about some positive change. But just sort of coming back to the industry, like, where do you see it going now? Yes, so we'll all at some point, be able to reopen. And I agree with you that we hope, diners will see us in a different light, see the industry in a different light. But, how does the industry really go from here? Like, where do you sort of move from here?
Well, I wish I had if I knew the answer completely, I'd be rich come 10 years from now. But I do think that, my sister read a lot of books about the 1918 pandemic, and what her takeaway was that people forgot about it.
Yeah, I agree.
3 or 4 years later. And I think that the desire to, go back to the way things were is going to be pretty strong. So once we have the science and we know how to deal with this virus, I think that we'll look back on this time and our restaurants will be thriving and three deep at the bar and lots of energy and joy and, excitement.
I love your optimism for sure. And, I sort of feel a very similar thing as you. And I think that, people are going to miss what they had and innately, crave it and want to, bring that back as quickly as possible. So, I think that's what we're all depending on.
But in the interim, I think we're going to learn a lot of things about how to take care of people better, like with more, not only, there's going to be a certain part of the population who are older and more nervous. So I want to take care of them by offering meal kits and delivery and cocktail kits and, having almost a restaurant experience, but they're at home where they feel safer. And then, I want to continue to figure out ways that I can, serve the community and get do what I do.
Yeah.
But there's going to be, it's interesting, like technology is going to take over our new menu. You just put your phone on the menu and then the menu pops up on your phone. You don't have to touch any piece of paper or anything. And,
I feel like I've had a crash course in technology in the last couple of weeks, just trying to sort of understand how to integrate all of this into our business. But I'm also that I'm a little nostalgic for what we've had, and I don't want sort of the restaurant to suddenly become like this, full of tech wizardry, because it's just not, it's not the it's not the vibe that we've built over the years, right? So, but I guess, yes, I mean, this is about sort of evolving and moving forward. But what do you feel about, like, do you think that people, over the last few months have become sort of more conscious of their diet? And do you think that, restaurants do need to look at what, relook at their sort of menus and rethink things? Or do you feel that, it's not about just sort of reacting and sort of changing what you've, again, created over the years and built a brand around,
Well, I think Susan and I have always been incredibly conscious of the kind of food we serve, where we source the food, how it's been handled with respect to the earth, and also on the plate, providing a real balance of vegetables, or a real, even, leaning towards plant heavy. Ever since we opened in 1981, we've had a lot of plant-based food, vegetarian platters. My business partner went to India 6 or 7 times back in the 80s, and we had a whole Indian vegetarian platter that was kind of like a thali, but really with a few American, parts to it. So I think that's also going to be important going forward for everybody. And I also, I think that we're also interconnected. Everything is connected, and climate change is real and it's happening. And, the fires this year and the droughts and the, famines are going to be bad. And so restaurants have kind of a responsibility to figure out how to source and support a food system that is going to be regenerative and as well as sustainable, because we need to now, heal the planet and regenerate it. And that's been my focus for a couple decades, since I had my first baby 30 years ago.
No, and it's amazing. I mean, you're very lucky to be where you are, in California, where, you do have access to this. And I think that's amazing. It's been a huge inspiration for us. And I think that, I've seen in India as well, over the last sort of 10 years that I've been in the business, there is a growing shift towards using locally sourced. And there's focus on, growing, sort of great produce, that there's care going into it. And it's not just about, the volumes and the, sort of keeping it as sort of sustainable and quality driven as possible. So I think that there's definitely a shift in the mindset, even locally.
Well, and I found when I was in India, it was just January.
Yeah.
It feels like, yesterday. A lot of the produce and a lot of the product that I worked with at your kitchen and in other places was just phenomenally beautiful and fresh and gorgeous. And I think in the United States, we've had this big ag thing that has become just completely unruly and, using all kinds of herbicides and pesticides and, making the production so mechanized and, all about the bottom line, where I don't know, but I think, in India, you might have less to undo it to get to a more regenerative and sustainable place than we do. I'm not sure, but
no, and I think it's also just a change in mindset for us, because we've generally been sort of, while we do have it, I think it's just that some of the parts need to just work better together and, to make it actually happen. I don't think that it's impossible. So yes, that's definitely something that I hope chefs will work on. You talked about Susan, and I just want to sort of ask you something that I'm really intrigued by is you both have had an incredible partnership of now almost 40 years together. And I mean, I feel like just seeing of course, I work with Jay, who's my husband. So, we're kind of like stuck together whether we like it or not right now. But, jokes apart, it is really rare to find, business partnerships that last this long, at least from what I see around me. And so, what has sort of been the success story behind this? What's the secret behind this, rather?
Yeah, it's interesting. We met in a kitchen in Chicago in the late 70s, and immediately we were just, fast friends. We were the only two women in a very French kitchen, and I think we just had a lot of respect for each other. We had the same kind of work ethic. We had the same kind of passion and energy. We were very energetic. We get to work 2 hours before our shift started, and it was just a great thing to kind of experience together. Then we went our own separate ways and worked in France around the same time and kept in touch. She was in the South, I was in Paris. And then we decided we'd open a restaurant together. We had no money, but we were going to do this. And, it's been a fabulous journey, a real adventure. There have been lots of ups and downs. There's been times when we've, had huge fights and said, nearly decided to go our own separate ways. But I think it's times like this, when there's a crisis, when there's a difficult period, when, we're losing money and we're we don't know the answers. That's when our partnership really clicks into high gear, and we become like so on the same page and so much each other's support. And we have very different personalities.
Right. We recently, I think, I don't know if you met Chef Amninder when you were here, but we recently brought on, I started working with, we have a third partner in our business. I don't know if you had a chance. I don't think you would have met her then. She just joined us in February. And actually, no, she came for one of the, she was there for one of the meals at Mag Street. So you would have met her. And she has just come on board. And, it's interesting for me because it's the first time we have a business partner who, is outside of the marital relationship as well. And, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's two women. And I'm really enjoying it so far because it's a third perspective on a lot of things. And, we see similarly in a lot of things, but we also, she and Jay see, eye to eye on a lot of things that I don't. And so it's an interesting dynamic. And it's sort of, I'd love to sort of know how, you guys made it work, even when obviously this is a situation that's outside of one's control, but, when it comes to maybe like creative differences or, business decisions sometimes that are, difficult to make where you don't necessarily have the same.
Yeah. Well, I think our strategy has been to, to collaborate and to, be flexible. And if somebody has one idea and it's kind of polar opposite to the other idea, we're kind of willing to meet somewhere in the middle where neither of us are happy, but we're finding, a compromise in there. And I think the longer we work together, the more we understand where the other one comes from, and the less we sort of push each other's buttons, which is, sometimes I think we argue just to argue, and we're actually agreeing, but we just kind of have gotten into these roles where, I'm the bad cop and she's the good cop on this particular issue. And so we just kind of argue even though we don't even have an argument. And so, I think with time, we both have sort of realized that, and we can laugh about
each other a lot better, I guess. So that helps.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I think it's good to have partnerships and to work with others really closely like that, and have to question your ideas and question your position when you're really entrenched in something, like, why am I really feeling like that? Right. And then I think it's healthy and makes you grow.
I think you're spot on, and but I do feel that it's also important to find the right person, and it's not just about an extra pair of hands to help you with something. So
right.
I'm excited. Again, sort of, you mentioned this earlier about being sort of the two women in a very male-dominated French kitchen. And I often get asked this, that, what's it like working, being a woman in this industry? And my response is always, well, I don't know otherwise, to be honest, right? Because, that's what I'm just kind of going about it as I would. Yes, there will be some, you do feel some societal challenges, and but I think that it's also presented me with a lot of great opportunities, and I've taken advantage of all of them. But what's it been like for you? Because I'm sort of a baby in this industry, and you've seen it over so many years, and do you feel like there's a change with respect to like more women getting into it? Do you think it's getting easier for women to get into, to stand on their own feet? And
I think it's getting better slowly. And I think 40 years ago, when I was opening our first restaurant, I thought that, by the time I was 62, like now, and I'd been in this industry for this many years, that really there would be almost, it would be seamless. Like, people wouldn't treat women different than men at all. I thought 40 years would be enough. And, I was going to lead the way and be a, change maker. Well, that didn't happen. This Me Too movement, when it hit 2 years ago here in our industry so hard in the United States, really made me think a little bit more. I think part of what I did as a young chef was to put blinders on to try to protect, myself from constantly spending energy on, was I getting fair treatment, because that I felt like I had to put all my energy on being 3 times as good as the guys in the kitchen, and, coming in early and working circles around them and agreeing to do it for less money in order to get ahead in this industry. And I see that so much. So, hindsight is so clear. But so I'm a big advocate for women in this industry. And the James Beard Foundation, where we have a lot of programs for just empowering women, and they're very specific and they're very exciting. Like, we do this workshop called Owning It, where we go to different cities and put together 15 or 20 entrepreneurial women who own businesses. And we go through a whole visioning day of business plans and how they'd like to grow. And then the next day we bring in a bunch of investors who only invest in women-owned businesses. And we have the top 5 or 6 pitches kind of go to the investors. And, it's been a great exercise to see these young entrepreneurial women, having a little more, support and
encouragement,
education around what needs to happen. Yeah. So, I remember going to Japan in 1986 or 87 and being a guest chef in Tokyo. And I took my sous chef, who was just a line cook kind of guy, Nobody would talk to me in the kitchen. They all went to him because they thought he was the chef and I was the lackey. I got so frustrated in the end. I just was like, okay, you can do the work. I'm going to go touring Tokyo and eating sushi all day.
I think that it's definitely changing, but we've got a long way to go. And like you said, it's really important to do whatever we can, to mobilize that and expedite it as much as possible. So, you mentioned the foundation and what you're doing with that. And I know when you came to India, it was a combined trip because of the amazing work you're doing with Share Our Strength, and you were coming out to check out one of the projects that you all are funding, and so I kind of want to just touch on that because you're doing a lot on in terms of philanthropy and just sort of the social work outside of your business, and what motivates you to do that? Like what encourages you, or what drives you rather to devote so much of your time to these causes? I know how much this business sucks out of us, and I know how much time and you've got a way bigger sort of, business than I have, and I know how much this takes out of me. So it is a real commitment, that you've given to these causes. So what is it that drives you?
Giving back is something that I grew up in in Michigan in a small town, and my parents got divorced when I was 12. So my mom was a single mom, and we were on a shoestring budget. And I think I saw right firsthand how tenuous, it's possible to be, on the edge of poverty. And so I think when I met Susan, who didn't have that experience as a child, she was all about giving back, and she was raised in a family that was very philanthropic. And I had to learn through her that we can give back. And what I love about Share Our Strength is that, even when I was a young chef, I didn't have any money to give. I didn't know how to give service, but they came to me and said, no, you have a strength to share. You're a great cook. People want your food. We'll organize this whole event around you, and then we'll make some money and we'll feed hungry children. And that to me was sort of like magic. And but the thing that kind of keeps me doing more of this kind of work is the fact that I feel like it helps my business enormously. I learned so much I've been on the board of Share Our Strength for 20 years, and some of the other board members are very, high-level CEO entrepreneurs and businessmen. And, for me, a little tiny restaurateur with, 350 employees that are, mom, we've been working this forever. Even when COVID hit, we had an emergency board meeting, and it helped me to make decisions about what to do with my business right now. So I do feel like the more I give, the more I get, and I want to leave the world a better place than it was. And when I had kids, I think that especially was the trigger for me to, not be just so singularly obsessed with my business and my work, but to expand to, figure out ways to have an impact on the world, as small as it might be. But I do really love my work. I probably spend 30% of my days on some sort of nonprofit advocacy, but I love it. I really love it. And probably that's why I'm not, I don't have a bigger empire, but it's okay.
A happy empire. So
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so inspiring, to hear all of this. And I think that, I think that also, I feel that it brings back that reason for that optimism that you have as a person. And, you feel like, we will get through this because, you've seen so much, and it's by nature. It's just something that, I think we have as restaurateurs, that we will get through this. So, this has been fantastic. But, so just before we sort of sign off, we have this rapid fire round, which is the last leg of our show, and it's something that it's just for fun. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. So
fantastic.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing instead?
Well, I'd like to be an ambassador or work in the foreign service where I could travel and, meet other people and make the world a better place.
Wonderful. What's your favorite cuisine or comfort food?
Oh my gosh, favorite is hard for me, but I have to say that when I have cravings for Japanese and Thai and Korean food that I just, those Asian flavors just make me,
I feel you. What's one pet peeve you have about restaurants?
Restaurants, I think, are all about the service. And, I spend a lot of time with our service staff just getting them to really read a table. And when I'm eating out and I feel like the server just has no idea what I want, they're not reading the cues. They're not seeing me when I'm waving. They're not noticing that I don't really want to chit chat for 10 minutes.
I know.
I think service is when service is great, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it can really elevate the meal. There's no doubt. So what one cooking or dining experience that you'll never forget? I'm sure you have many, but I'm going to hold you to one.
I do. I took a trip to Mongolia with 5 women chefs and a couple of friends.
Oh, wow.
And we drove through the tundra up to the border of Siberia and camped in a yurt for 10 days. And we went hunting and fishing, and we cooked every meal. And one night we made a marmot.
A what?
And we made a marmot. It's like a water, kind of like a badger or they're an animal. Anyway, I don't think you need to worry about getting to know it. It wasn't the most delicious thing we ever ate, but it was interesting, and we had a lot of fun. We made tacos. We had a little cook-off.
Marmot tacos, right?
Yeah. But just setting, with those 5 beautiful chefs, and we were just having so much fun that it was just a fantastic evening. All the evenings were good, but that one night, cooking a marmot, you'll have to look it up.
I have to look this up. So last one, where's the first place you're going to go after the lockdown ends? The first place you're going to travel to or visit?
Well, I'm hoping to go to Portugal and Italy. I have a bicycle tour to be the leader of, kind of a culinary bicycle tour. It'll be my 4th one that I've led in Italy. It's in Friuli. And then we'll stop off in Portugal where we're building a house. My husband's an architect, and we're just breaking ground. So hoping I can spend some time there when, when the restaurants are back up and running and my team is all set, and I can start to, I'm trying to let go and eventually transition myself into less of a day-to-day role, but we'll see.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like quite the adventure, and I hope it happens, and I hope I really hope that things come back slowly but surely to some form of normalcy again, and bigger and better. So good luck with everything, and again, thank you so much, Mary Sue. This has just been I know we spent sort of time talking when you were here, but I think I've learned so much more today, and thank you so much for taking the time out and
thank you, Gauri. It's a pleasure to be here. It's so great to hear your voice, and I'm excited to continue. I'd love to come back to India sometime, and I'm sure I will. I had such a beautiful trip there, and this has been a treat for me too. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. The irony is that we've always looked to the West for inspiration, but this time it feels like all of us are on a level playing field starting out again. Our survival instinct is at its sharpest, which indicates a need to change, innovate, and adapt. It's like that famous saying, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it. Will we all rise to the challenge? There is absolutely no reason to believe we won't. I hope you enjoyed tuning in today. New episodes of this podcast are out every Wednesday. If you like this show, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM Podcast Network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcasts app or website or wherever else you get your podcasts from. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at Gauri Devidayal on Instagram and at Gauri Details on Twitter.
Entertainment is like food for the brain. It's a window to culture and a great way to understand the world around us. The internet has changed what it means to be an entertainer, creating new storytellers with millions of fans. It has spawned a new breed, the story sellers, those behind the scenes creating the business for this ecosystem. They work with brands, platforms and channels who are keen to capitalize on an audience hungrier than ever for more stories. I'm Vineet Kanabar, and I have a ringside view to how stories are told and sold. On my show, I bring you creators, artists, executives and marketers for a freewheeling conversation around the business of entertainment. Tune in to Storytellers and Story Sellers for personal stories, analysis and criticism every Thursdays as I talk to the brightest minds telling or selling great stories today.
Namaskar, this is Ashish Vidyarthi. Yes, my friend, these are challenging times, but in these challenging times, we can create something extraordinary. Do take time to listen to my podcast, Begin the Journey, available on the IVM Podcast, website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, we have a great opportunity called life. Cheers.